mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad. Your mom and dad.
I had a whole thing planned to say. I don't know. Can I go now?
Aren't you?
Can I?
What did you feel when you told your
now?
girlfriend that you love her and you want to marry her while on a show about falling in love and marrying? Can you provide a little bit of clarity to that?
Can I go now?
Can I just go now?
Everybody, I'm just kidding. It's me. It's Jess.
Oh my God.
Your mom and dad are here.
We literally thought we were doing the podcast with Trevor today.
Listen, you guys, I was just role playing Trevor from the Love is Blind reunion for just a second. And then I realized it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be in the gym all the time and lie all the time. So I just stopped.
You're going to have to.
It's me. It's your mom and dad. Welcome home, family.
Yeah, you're going to have to be drawn by Pixar because that guy has Pixar shoulders.
I've never seen.
No, he has Pixar body.
He is a cartoon. I mean, he is a.
What's the Incredibles or something? He doesn't look real.
No, he is so muscular.
It's funny when someone that big tries because he came in trying to be small too. Like he had the kind of like let me scrunch my shoulders down.
I'm trying to be invisible. Like
he's trying to be small.
Please don't see me right now because you know what I did and everything.
Yeah.
And then he tries to like get on the couch and he's just like, I know that I've just been pumping iron like crazy in the gym
movie
nonstop.
With Chris Pratt? The superhero movie where it's like a bunch of different superheroes.
Oh,
what's it called?
Guardians of the Galaxy.
He's the Rock guy.
Oh, 100% he's the Rock.
or like whatever. He's the guy that's like John Batiste or whatever, that huge guy. Like he's so big. He looks like a cartoon. He's massive.
You guys, I really wanted to start the podcast off like with my role playing as Trevor. And I just want you all to know that I have been really trying to I hope you appreciated that because I've really been trying to get into character over the past couple days. I've been truly method acting. So I have been Trevor the past few days. Like I started a whole different relationship that Evan didn't know about.
Yeah.
I've been deadlifting Evan before and after I have my protein powder.
Which has been fun.
It's
kind of adding like a new spiciness to the bedroom, getting bench pressed at night. Like really, we've never gone there. And we're doing kind of a gym role model thing where she's benching me.
I tell Evan that I want to marry him. And then I'm like, I don't really actually know if we are dating or not, or if we are together or not. That's always fun. So yeah, that's Trevor.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the biggest fumble of all time.
Yeah.
Like, are you talking
about Trevor?
Yeah, we're just getting right into it.
Sure, hold on.
Because I kind of want to
Family, hello, welcome home. It is your mom and dad. We're getting right into the Love is Blind reunion for season 6 because family, I gotta tell you all, this reunion, we finally got what we wanted with this reunion. This reunion, they came out of the gate. There were receipts. There were screenshots. They had flashbacks. They were showing timestamps. I mean, it was what we wanted. And Nick and Vanessa were asking the actual questions that we wanted them to ask.
It was really good. And it wasn't, I don't know, it didn't feel biased. Like last time, there was a lot of biased questions last time. Like clearly they had picked favorites and now they didn't. This felt really well done. It felt like what we don't get with a lot of reunions, which is like, let's get into it. Which happens a lot of times. It's kind of like a softball question about it. Then they'll kind of give a softball answer. And then you're hoping that one of the contestants will call them out.
Yes.
But Nick and Vanessa
they
went
did it
right at them every time, and I loved it. I thought they did an amazing job.
It really just shows you what 2 years can do. Because remember, well, I guess maybe not even 2 years, 2 seasons. Because 2 seasons ago, we were screaming in the streets to have Vanessa.
I mean, there was articles written about how horrible it was
as a host of the show.
But you know what? Here's what I appreciated about them.
Yeah.
They didn't let it crush them. They said, we're going to do better.
And in fact, not only did they do better, they had a uncomfortable sexual chemistry going on between them that started from the moment that the show began, that the reunion began. And normally, I don't know, maybe I'm swinging from the fences here, but I always felt a vitriol disdain between the two of them as a married couple.
Yeah, I felt like
they really
couldn't stand each other. That was the energy I always got.
But now from the top of the reunion, we see them in the pods and they are...
He says he wants to boink her. You know what I mean?
He's like, I hear her voice. He wants to boink her.
Yeah.
And then numerous times throughout even the reunion, they were kind of like, oh, well, you know, hey. She's like, say receipts again, daddy.
Yeah.
And he's like, receipts, mommy.
Yeah, it was a little wild. It almost felt
But it seems like they're doing great.
It seems like they're doing good. Here's kind of the vibe I'm getting, if I'm being honest with you.
Sure.
I don't think they're doing any better. I
okay,
think
wow,
they're in
just
some...
stepping all over love.
Hear
Go
me
ahead.
out.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're going to some sort of like advanced sexual therapy that is making them do wild things that they're having a blast with.
Okay,
so their sexual
this feels intimate.
So their sexual chemistry is very intense right now, but none of the issues have been resolved.
Okay, so they don't like each other, but they're having
the sex is amazing, but they're still like constantly in a state of just like annoying. You're annoying me.
Do you know what I think went down?
What?
I'm sorry. Lest we not forget my King Nick's TikTok where he was clearly in a man cave. We hear that he moved, right? It sounds like they moved to Hawaii. So they probably got a new house. He got this man cave where in these TikToks, you see his posters behind him. Star Wars, Die Hard. God. This guy finally got
Star Wars, Die Hard. Nick, I love you. I really do like Nick. He seems like a great guy, but I will say like... He's the kind of guy that will buy a $700 Mickey Mouse t-shirt. You know what I mean? Like a designer Star Wars. I think, did we talk about this last time? I don't know if we were just talking to ourselves, but he's just the guy that you're like, where'd you get that Target? It's like, no, this is $1,200 for this t-shirt.
Like, wow, that's a lot.
Like taste wise, Nick is not the most developed.
He's not what you'd call a tastemaker.
He's not a tastemaker. He's the guy that gets a man cave and puts in like
a sign that says man cave.
A sign that says like man cave or like St. Pauli girl or like, you know what I mean? Some sort of beer sign, like where you're like, dude, that is the most like obvious choice. Like, can we do something with a little more decor, you know, something a little more interesting? It's like darts, a beer tap. Like, it's just the most like, if you were just a AI man cave, like that is his man cave. Star Wars, you know, you're like...
In my head, Nick and Vanessa are kind of like the Michael Scott and Jan.
Yes.
Right? It's Jan, right?
Yeah.
He's with, where he has the St. Pauli girl sign. He's got the tiny TV that pulls out.
She has a candle room and an office and their bedroom, and he gets like a little tiny corner, and like he gets to put the TV's like 12 by 12 inches, and he pulls it out from the wall like 1 inch, and he's like, see?
He doesn't even sleep on the bed.
He sleeps at the base of the bed. So it's 100%.
So what I think happened is that Nick got his man cave. He put up his photos. Yeah. He's like living his truth. He's spending a lot of time in the man cave, and all of a sudden, I feel like Nick really found himself again through song, aka
Halsey covers.
Yeah. I hope he only ever does Halsey covers for the rest of his life.
It's so random. I mean, it couldn't be more random. It's like...
So he's out here doing his Halsey covers, which I get. She is an absolute god. So it's like, you know, you get this energy when you sing Halsey. You're like, I'm not a woman, I'm a god. He's like singing that. It's like, you know, he's reinventing himself. Anyway, he's having this... you know, reinvention of who he is. Yeah. And maybe he's been singing Vanessa a Halsey cover or two, and the spark is alive. Like, that's the energy I'm getting. I feel like he needed his man cave, he needed his Halsey covers, and now he's coming out, and all of a sudden he's like, hey, baby girl, and is singing to her, and she's like, that's the guy I married, that, like, singer of a boy band
here's the thing,
energy.
when you think about it, right, when they got together, wasn't 98 Degrees kind of on its way out?
It had been gone, I think, for a minute.
It had been gone.
Yeah.
So she never got to experience the boy band version of him.
That's true.
So he's always been kind of like...
I think time-wise, yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't completely gone, it was on its way out, right? So she, you know, it's kind of like, were you ever really a rock star? And then he's been probably doing some rehearsals, and she's just like, oh my God, like there's the power, you know, him on stage as because he was like the lead in 98 Degrees, wasn't he? I think he kind of was. I think he was kind of the main dude. So it's kind of like, okay, the lead singer, that man that I remember watching his music videos and thinking he was hot. Now I'm getting that a little bit.
Yeah.
So
I'm waiting for I need a Christmas album from Nick Lachey.
He would be amazing.
I feel like he maybe has one already, but I need a new one.
Yeah.
And I need him and Halsey to duet on it.
God, that would be insane.
Someone call up Halsey. She'll be like,
what? It's not going to help you at all, Halsey, but it will help him a lot.
And it's really going to help their marriage.
It's going to help them do this for their marriage.
Do this for our reunions, because whatever is going on with the two of them, and I really do think it's because they've had a spark back in their relationship, they gave us what we wanted, and the set gave us what we wanted, and everything was just a 10. It really was. Now, there were some major things that didn't get discussed, specifically the status of like Jimmy and Chelsea that I was confused by, which I had to then dive into separately. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I mean, a phenomenal reunion. I say we just get right into it.
Yes.
And by the way, family, here's the bottom line. We're going to be bouncing all over the place, because I don't think we're going to go in chronological order, because there's a few specific things that I want to discuss off the top, aka the Trevors, aka the Jimmy and Chelseas, just because it's our podcast. That's what I want to talk about, right?
100%. We do what we want.
But before we dive in, we have to take a quick pause. Family, here's the bottom line. You know, I'm not trying to be shady, but after seeing some of the reunion fits, Jeramey, I would have highly recommended some people checking out Quince first, okay?
Yes.
I mean, he could have had one of their stunning, beautiful button-down silk shirts in like a nice olive hue. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Genuinely, Quince, the most chic, beautiful, timeless pieces at great prices. I could scroll and drool over Quince's website for a lifetime. Listen, even though I enjoy a little luxury, it doesn't mean I can always afford it until I discovered Quince. Quince has become my go-to for luxury essentials at affordable prices. Quince offers a range of high-quality items at prices within reach. Like, I'm talking 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters from $50, washable silk tops and dresses, organic cotton sweaters, and 14 karat gold jewelry. I mean, I'm telling you, family, it is genuinely jaw-dropping. Me lounging in my glorious lotiony cashmere sweater that I got for $50 is one of my most favorite things right now. I'm telling you, okay? You have to go on their website.
It's unreal. They feel incredible.
Yes.
The best part, all Quince's items are priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. By partnering directly with top factories, Quince cuts out the cost of the middleman and passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with the factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices in premium fabrics and finishes.
I'm telling you, go on their website. I could not believe my eyes when I first did. What a dream. This is also where I am now officially purchasing gifts for loved ones. Such a great place to get gifts. I recently got one of their oversized cashmere crewneck sweaters that I have been living in, and I feel so comfortable and simultaneously chic in. And do not get me started on their 100% washable silk cropped wide leg pant that I just got. It looks so good. It feels so good. I just love it so much. I love everything. There's just too much goodness. Go online and check it out yourself. Give yourself the luxury you deserve with Quince. Go to quince.com/momdad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/momdad to get free shipping with 365-day returns. Quince.com/momdad. Okay, I say that since I started off with my method Trevor acting, which by the way, you did not compliment me on, and I feel upset about.
Listen,
I wasn't giving Trevor to you with that intro.
No, you were absolutely giving Trevor.
I did feel really awkward as soon as I was done doing it.
I gotta be honest with you.
Being on stage, no applause, and then not knowing where to go with
Well, the issue was this. I mean, you could
Like,
not be further from Trevor. You know what I mean? You're not giving me 6'4", 300 of pure muscle. So
I'm offended.
It's just a little hard to, you know what I mean? Like it's just like, he doesn't have like a specific accent either. So there's not even like a thing. So it's just hard to just do exactly what he did and be like, did I not give you Trevor? It's like, technically you did, but it's so few things that make me see Trevor.
I will tell you, our daughter right now, what her current obsession is wanting to become the strongest person in the world.
Yes.
It's a very new obsession. It's been about 3 days.
48 hours.
Yeah. But she's like,
it's working out all day.
She's like, I will become the strongest person in the world, basically because she just wants to beat everyone in her school arm wrestling. That's like her goal.
There's a new boy who beat her, and she's devastated, and so she's like...
she always beats all the boys, and now there's this one kid that beat her, and now she's very upset about it.
But she's not really doing any work with the arms. It's mostly just like, she's doing a lot of like boxing and...
that's arms.
That's true. And what do you
jump rope?
Jump rope.
Arm. What are you talking about?
She's getting the full fitness in.
She's doing full fitness, but I started watching the reunion, and she saw Trevor come in, and she goes, wow. He looks really strong. What does he do?
Yeah.
So she wanted like Trevor's routine. Just so you know, Trevor, my daughter's looking for your routine. And I'm like, well, seems like steroids. Allegedly. I can't say it.
Trevor, if you want to redeem yourself bit by bit, start with sending my daughter your workout routines. And we'll see
because
if that buys you some good
the strongest
social coin.
In the world. Anywho, okay. So family, I will say.
Yeah.
When Nick and Vanessa had Trevor come out and he got on that couch and they said, explain yourself after they showed screenshots. The silence that we beheld, I feel like was historical on reality television. I don't think we've ever had that long of a silence and an awkwardness. And there's part of me that thinks it probably was longer and they edited it down.
Well, and if AD wouldn't have said, say it with your chest, like how long would it have gone?
That's what I'm saying.
You know what I mean?
Which, by the way, what a
Great line.
When AD
Great
leans her, she goes,
hey,
no, say it with your chest. You're going to get quiet now.
Or don't act don't act sad or something. Like just be a man here and stand up for what you did. It was interesting. I just was so confused by his approach. I think that was my biggest issue was like, first of all, it showed a timer that he was there plenty of time. So he was there like 40 minutes before, like waiting, and they were just waiting.
Well, also you have like the like 2 weeks before the reunion where this news dropped, where you could be processing what you're going to say. You could have been prepping
at least the way to what to say.
Like hire a PR firm. Dude,
anything. Write it down and be like, I'm going to read it because I'm not good, whatever.
Yeah, write it down for sure. Write it down. You don't have to write it down in your hand. Write it down on a scroll and bring it out. I don't care. On an
ancient scroll.
Yeah, a tablet. Who cares?
But I was so confused by the approach because I do understand the manipulation approach of like, oh, I had something like, because we've seen every movie, right? Every movie has like movie where there's like a guy who's gonna like go up on stage and confess something or lie or whatever. He does this thing where he goes, and he puts the notes away that his PR team.
Oh, he's gonna go off.
You know what I mean? And he goes,
oh, that would have been good.
I was about to say a whole thing, but I realize now. And then they confess.
Just be honest.
That's a classic thing. He didn't do that. He literally just goes, I had a whole thing prepared, but now I will say nothing.
Do you think that's what he was trying to do? Do you think?
Yes, I think at first
his attempt when he said I had a whole thing planned, but I'm going to reject that type energy, but it came off awkward.
I thought his initial thing was like, I'm going to do this whole, I had something, and then I'm so humble and I'm going to be honest, like a superhero right now. And then he ended up not saying anything and having no answers to anything. So it just fell apart so bad. Dude, all you had to do was walk out and go, yeah, I used the situation. It was completely wrong. I manipulated this poor girl, made her feel like we were going to get in love. We were going to get married.
We were going to get in love.
That I was still in love with her. I was using her. I was using this show. In the midst of that, I fell in love with Chelsea and then realized that I was in a horrible place and I was completely wrong. And I was going to use this show. I'm so sorry for instead of any of that. He just was like, yeah, I don't know. We're toxic.
And he's just like, we're not like, I didn't like technically ask her to be my girlfriend.
We weren't technically together. Like that's the thing you said? After everything that happened, the thing you said was we weren't technically together.
Like this poor woman is probably literally at home being like, we were living together. Like that's the type of guy. It's like, I'm literally like Evan and I have been in a relationship for 10 years. And then I'm all of a sudden like, well, technically, I never said I'd be your wife or girlfriend, so like we're not actually together.
I said, do you want to be exclusive for the rest of our lives? I did not say, do you want to be my girlfriend? So technically you can't say we were boyfriend and girlfriend.
So basically what ends up happening is that I believe it was his now ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if I'm getting this wrong, everybody. I feel like I've been, unaware. And also if there's new things that have popped up since we saw this reunion, who knows if new things have come out since we're recording this. But I believe his now ex-girlfriend released those text messages.
Which is wild. I mean, that's just the ultimate.
I loved it. It was released the text messages because I think what I heard is that he broke up with her like right before Love is Blind aired or something like that they had still been
got off
together.
The show and said, I want to get married to you.
Yeah, but I'm saying I think that they continued to date and then he broke up with her, I believe, again, I'm sorry if I'm wrong, I believe right before the Love is Blind season aired.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, hell no. And released all these text messages that basically showed everyone that he was in a relationship with this woman and went on the show to be like, hey, guess what? I'm not going to be like, I won't get engaged. I won't get married. There were text messages that said like, I'm not going to get engaged or get married, but I'm going to get right up to the very edge.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy in the airplane. He said he's not going to get engaged either. And then I'll come running back to you, essentially.
Right.
And it's in these text messages, he's saying, like, I want to marry you. Don't worry. Like, I just had to pretend the entire time. And then this man is going to have...
basically, I would get to the point where we're on the altar and then bail.
No. Like, basically what he did with Chelsea.
Which is a weird move because it's like, if you notice, if you're going on there for fame, the only people that get like that blow up are the people that like either get married or go to the edge and then break up. So you'd have to go to like the altar.
Well, no, you're wrong. Because guess who got famous?
Who?
Trevor. Everyone was
but that's because he was a villain.
No.
You were just saying, yeah, people loved. That's true. People did love him before they found out.
Everyone was like doing this whole thing about like, oh my gosh, protect Trevor. We love Trevor. Trevor was blowing up, and the people were like, put him on Perfect Match.
So he had it. He had been successful in his manipulative pursuits,
yes.
And then she was like,
it was just like text messages dropped.
Sir, you are not walking out of this thing clean.
But he has the audacity with the text messages clearly saying, I just have to pretend this far. And he has the audacity to go in and be like, no, I wasn't trying to get on to be famous. Like, her and I weren't like technically dating and we were toxic. And I like told her I was going to really go on this show and try. And like, I might come back and be with someone. Yeah, sure, buddy. And he's going to hold that. He's going to hold to that on stage. Are you?
He's so bad too. Because it's like, dude, all you had to do to get away with this was not send those text messages on the plane. Because clearly they had conversations off whatever, but there's no proof. It's like if he's on the way to rob a bank and he's just texting someone going, I can't wait to rob this bank.
Seriously,
it's going to be a great bank to rob. And when I have all the money, I'm going to be so excited when I rob this bank. And then he robs the bank and then she just drops the text message. He's like, no, it's like, dude, you literally just like made sure it was in writing of the crime you were committing. Like, that's insane. It's like, how did you
well, Trevor doesn't hit me as an super intellectual bank robber.
Not a big, yeah, that's true.
But the fact that he had just the audacity to sit there and act like him and this person weren't in a relationship.
Like, of all the angles you could have taken, that was the angle you took. That's a crazy one.
If I would have been Trevor, I know what you were saying, and that you said you would have gone up and been like, oh, I was manipulating this one woman, but then I did fall in love with Chelsea. If I would have been Trevor, I would have been
gone into it.
No, I would have been fully honest. I would have sat down and I just would have been like, here's the bottom line. It's true. I wanted to go on this show to get famous, to get some clout. I was in a relationship with somebody. And I thought, it's just a stupid reality TV show. I thought everyone was faking it and bullshitting on these shows. Right. By the way, this isn't me being fully honest, but like being like bullshitting up the truth, I guess.
If
but
you're going to be a liar and a manipulator, at least do it right.
Right. Where you're just like, hey, I thought everyone on this, it was all fake and it was all bullshit.
Right.
And then I got there and then I realized that like people actually were. And now when I've watched back Love is Blind, I realized there are people falling in love. And what I did was really unkind and not okay. And I shouldn't have been doing this. And this is real people's lives. And I just thought, oh, it's reality TV. It's all fake. I'm just going to try to get famous from it. And I just would have been direct in that way, I guess.
But maybe that's not how he feels even to this day. Maybe he truly just does feel like I didn't get away with it. And so he doesn't really know what to say because he just didn't get away with it. You know what I mean? Maybe I don't know if he did fall in love with Chelsea or not. It sounds like he kind of did.
Oh,
but it's like,
I don't believe
maybe he just fell into like lust. I don't know.
That he came, that
That's
comes
what I'm saying. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't believe a single word because like.
My thought is that my thought is this. He kind of did fall in love with Chelsea. And then when she didn't choose him, he then went back and when he got off and was like, "Bye, babe, I want to marry you," because he knew that like that's going to come out. And you know what I mean? It was like, I would have chosen Chelsea if she would have chosen me, but then I ran back to my ex and made sure that she knew.
So you're
like,
saying you think that he wasn't actually in a relationship with this person?
No, I think he completely was in a relationship.
Yeah.
I think he went on the show.
And you think he would have just ditched the relationship?
100%. I think
if she would have said yes?
Yes, I think he would have ditched the relationship because then it would have got, first of all, he probably really liked her. Also, it would have got him maybe more limelight, more in the more thing, whatever. I think he would have absolutely ditched his ex. But I think the fact that Chelsea ditched him, he ran back to his ex hoping he'd get her kind of locked up before they see the footage of him. You know what I'm saying?
No,
like it was like he was playing both sides. Like either way, I'm going to end up with somebody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Wild.
Yeah, by the way, I'm not saying that what the relationship that he did have with his ex wasn't toxic.
No,
he said that they were both toxic.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not doubting that that's the case because I'm seeing what went down.
What was interesting though, I bet.
I don't know. I think he's all full of it.
Oh, I think he's completely full of it. That's why I'm saying I think he was playing both sides.
Yeah.
But I think that he went there. And then when he found out Matthew wasn't going, he was like, wait, we didn't have to show up to this thing?
Oh, no.
Oh, my. That's why he's like, can I leave? Because it was like, wait a second, Matthew's not here? You can just say no. In my contract, it says I can't. And then Matthew just didn't show up? Oh, shit. And that's why he walked out and goes, can I leave now? Because he's just like, dude, I got to get out of here. Because it made no sense. The way he said, I got to leave made no sense.
It's true.
He didn't fight for himself. He didn't become the villain. He didn't do anything. He just sat there awkwardly.
Yeah, he didn't realize that he could like pull a Zoom or do something like that.
He didn't realize he could zoom in and go, oh, sorry, the connection's really bad. And then they have to fall apart. He literally just sat there, got obliterated and left. It was like, dude, what was the possible point of that?
That's very true.
Zero accomplishment. By
because
showing
this
up.
Is what I'm saying. If he would have sat there and if he would have gone full villain,
and he would have created a moment.
If he would have gone full villain and been like, yeah, you're right. I just think it's all reality TV. This whole thing is absolute bullshit. And yeah, no, you're right. I didn't realize, and I do regret that I hurt people along the way. But like, I just think it's all bullshit.
I just changed my Instagram name to Toxic Trevor.
Toxic Trevor.
Yeah.
He could have. There could have been a cult
thing going on. Yes.
Or it could be this thing that he shows up on The Perfect Match because everyone's like, oh shit, it's the villain.
It's like the love-hate thing where you want to see him fail. So he's a
charismatic villain that everyone's gasping about. But he just failed everything
at trying to be loved or hated. He just became obsolete and just like disgusting. It was like the most, I mean, I guess he deserves it, but I just will say the worst played. He had about 5 minutes to like change his future.
Yeah, it was like, just think about this before you do it, dude. Unbelievable. But you know what? I do have to say this. So then all of a sudden he's out there. He's got nothing to say besides absolute nonsense that he's playing, which Nick was killing me, by the way. But he's like, you're really going to go with that, huh?
Like, is that really what you're saying?
You're going to go with that?
He was blown away. Nick was like,
right.
This is mind-blowing. Nick, by the way, was the kind of not antagonist, but Nick was the one going at people this reunion, which was unique. I
enjoyed it. But so then when he's like, can I go? I love then that Jess was just like, no.
Yeah.
Trevor, Chelsea's been under fire for weeks now because of this show, and you're being heralded for however many weeks as like, oh, we love Trevor, protect him. Like, you better be present and not just run off stage and take some of the accountability. Which I love that she said that. But, he then said, listen, I'll talk to Chelsea as long as she wants off camera. I don't care what anybody else says. Like, I'll tell Chelsea, like, I did care about her. You saw me sobbing. Everybody, guys, right? You saw me sobbing. I'll tell her anything she needs to hear off camera, wants to hear. And, I got to tell you, part of me, I do wish that Chelsea would have gone in on him a little bit, but it was quite incredible the way that she was just like, I had an intuition that I shouldn't pick you, and I know why now, but thank you for coming here, and thank you for being willing to talk off camera. And she was so gracious.
Yeah, very gracious.
If I would have, Chelsea's gotten so much shit.
Oh my God.
On this season. I'm not going to lie to you. I would have been like, this is my moment to get some victory and be like, and go off on Trevor and be like, you actually were. Like, I mean, like, she could have really gotten a lot from this.
I'm not trying to catch strays here either.
No, but I'm saying like, she could have gotten her moment. Yes. She could have gotten like a Laura moment. A little
redemption
right?
vibe.
A Laura moment where it's like, oh, look at what happened to me.
Like, she loves like clown. She could have used clown.
Yeah,
like
she could have gone off. And instead she was kind of like, There's probably a level of like, I know what it's like to get tons of heat, and you already dug your own grave, my guy. So it is what it is.
Instead, Jimmy threw a little line and said something like, "Yeah, make sure you tell Pumpkin something."
Because they said pumpkin in the screenshots with him and his ex.
Because they were calling each other Pumpkin a lot. So then Jimmy throws in the something pumpkin line, kind of jabbing Trevor. And then Jess just looks over and goes, "Oh, don't you worry. We're coming to you soon."
Oh, hold up.
And then Jimmy goes, "Oh.
Wait, I want to say, okay, now I want to talk about the Jimmy comments throughout this episode, but we got to take another quick pause here before I talk about some of these Jimmy comments. Family, this message is sponsored by Greenlight. Listen, when you are a parent, a caretaker, you will have your fair share of big talks with your kids. I'll never forget a less than 2-year-old Ember asking me why the sky is blue and me Googling
Still don't know.
furiously, okay? Big talks, big talks. Well, one of those big talks should involve money. It is a big one, and Greenlight can help with that. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families. You can send your kids instant money transfers, get real-time notifications of spending, manage chores, and automate allowance. It's really amazing. You can set up reoccurring or one-time chores customized to your family's needs and connect them with allowance to reward the kids for a job well done. Greenlight hits home for me truly because if I'm being perfectly honest, financial literacy is something I really struggle with as an adult, and seeing Greenlight, I think, wow, if I had this as a kid, it would have been really beneficial for me as an adult now, honestly. And it is benefiting me now for sure.
Yeah, it's true. With Greenlight, your kids build financial literacy and independence, which is huge, by learning to earn, save, and spend wisely. The Greenlight app also comes with an in-app financial literacy game, Level Up, that helps kids build money confidence through videos, bite-sized challenges, mini games, and more.
More than 6 million parents and kids use Greenlight to learn how to make responsible financial choices. So stop putting off the money talk and start putting your kids on the right path. Sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/momdad. That's greenlight.com/momdad to try Greenlight for free. greenlight.com/momdad. Okay, so I want to talk about the Jimmy comments. Yeah. Now, everybody, Jimmy is clearly sitting on this stage during this reunion and is like, God bless the broken road that has led me to not being the main male villain of this season.
He was literally just like wanted to kiss the feet of Jeramey and Trevor and just be like, thank you, because I was headed to hell. Like I was the pinnacle of hate like it was looking bad for me.
It was looking bad.
God for you two glorious men to come in and take the shame mountain from me as comparatively.
Because we hear, and we'll get into the whole Jeramey and Sarah Ann of it all later, but we hear that Jeramey numerous times refers to like, oh God, well, I'm looking as bad as Jimmy right now, or I'm looking worse.
Like everyone knew.
Which is this is an interesting thing for me to have a little behind the scenes moment of. So from the cast's BTS perspective, Jimmy looked like the guy who was going to probably look the worst as the villain. That's how they were feeling, which is, again, interesting for me to think about. Also, we hear then behind the scenes of the cast talking about what it was like to see Chelsea acting how Chelsea was. And they were all shocked. They were like, Chelsea is bubbly and positive and all these lovely things. And we were shocked by like the insecurity and the fights and the arguments, which, again, goes to show, and I will herald it till the end here, that I think that Chelsea was really put in a situation where she could feel that he did not want to be there and it was seeping through his pores, and it made her insecurity go through the roof.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But it was absolutely killing me that Jimmy, from the start, he was throwing out these lines where it'd be like, well, I got enough to deal with ahead of me, so I'm going to stay out of this one. And he kept kind of throwing in these zingers. And at first he started it kind of quiet and the audience laughed. And you saw him brighten up and he goes,
I could win these people over.
He's I got this.
If we get Jeramey looking bad enough, Trevor looking bad enough, I say a couple good, funny lines that are self-deprecating. When it gets to me, we'll be in a much better place.
And he, I would love to have a reel of Jimmy before his, quote unquote like hot seat moment on the reunion of him with the lines in his face up to that point, because I think he really thought he was like, oh, I got him in the palm of my hand right now. And so then when he made that comment and Jess goes, oh, it's your turn soon. And his face, he literally went from this to like,
yeah, it was like the most dramatic Disney level just reaction. It was like, meow.
But okay, this was the part of the reunion, jumping to the Jimmy, Chelsea, and Jessica of it all. We kind of got into it because they started asking some viewer questions. And one of the questions asked was, Chelsea, how did you feel about the Jess and Laura conversation? And that kind of opened up then, Jimmy and Chelsea and Jessica. This was the only part of the reunion I was really bummed that we didn't get more of. They kind of saved it towards the end of the reunion. Yeah. And we did not get a lot of deep diving into their relationship dynamic at all. We talked about Chelsea being Megan Fox. We talked about Chelsea, publicly talking about Jimmy having slept with one of his friends. And then we talked about like the Jimmy and Jess of it all, but we did not talk about really Jimmy and Chelsea.
You're right.
Which was like, in my opinion, where are they at
currently? Do they hate each other? Are they hanging out? Are they kind of seeing if it works? Are they completely? Who knows?
We didn't get like anything that was going on. We did see the leg
touch, which was interesting.
He kind of would grab her leg.
There was like a moment when he grabbed her leg after like there was a thing that happened, and it was kind of they both looked at each other like, okay.
I felt like there was some hand holding throughout it a little bit. But
maybe they're low key seeing each other and kind of seeing if it'll be. I don't know.
Okay, well, no. I don't think so. Okay, and this is why. Because I obviously this is the one thing that I was diving into after, because I was like, excusez-moi? You're not going to clear up. We're not going to talk. That's my thing. I'm like, you guys, we're not going to talk about the Jimmy and Chelsea ending at the theme park and like the out of nowhere we're done. Like we're not going to address that at all. They also didn't address anything like Jimmy at the party with AD. They didn't address. I feel like there was numerous Jimmy and Chelsea ones they didn't talk about. But okay, so here's as far as I know. So Jimmy and Chelsea, from little interview snippets that I saw Chelsea say that Jimmy and her attempted to date. Yeah. After they broke up. After they ended the marriage portion, at the theme park, they attempted to date. And Chelsea said they made it about 4 full days.
Yeah, 100%.
And every single one of those days was filled with arguments.
It was like, why don't you love me? And he's like, your smell bothers me. Your existence bothers me. And she's just like, you don't want me to hang out. And he's like, I want you to hang out. It's just maybe in like a month or something, just not now. That was their relationship for 4 days.
It was just 4 days of like them fighting, and then half of the day was them fighting and half of the day was them being like, we have the best communication skills as a couple that has ever happened ever in the world ever. So they tried to date for 4 days, and it absolutely did not work.
They fought every single day on the show, so
there's no way.
No shocking. I can't believe they even tried again. Incredible. They fought every day. It's unbelievable.
I will say they don't give up easy. These two. They don't give up easy. There was
a chemistry there that they were fighting for.
There must have been.
It's insane.
But yeah, so apparently they did break up. There were photos of them that were taken, I think, after the reunion of them eating dinner together. Yeah. So it appears that they are friends. Obviously, they were kind of touchy throughout the reunion, which I will say, I did call in the finale when I said what I think the reunion is going to be like. I said, I think he will 100% be dating someone and she will be like dying inside but pushing it down and act like they're best friends. And so I do feel like I got part of it. He's not dating anybody, but I felt like the dynamic between...
We don't know if he's not dating anybody, but he didn't offer that up.
That's true. But I was like, oh, he's going to have declare I'm with a serious girlfriend now and da-da-da-da-da. But I think we did see that dynamic where they were like, we're best friends, but you could see in her face when he would say certain things, like she was trying not to react. Like when he was like, clearly Jess is gorgeous. And there was dynamic. poor Chelsea's face. I felt like you could read it all over that she was like just stuffing her feelings down to like attempt to have them be friends. But I was like, Chelsea girl, spread those wings and be free. You deserve more, in my opinion. You should go out. You find someone else, a better friend or a better partner or whatever it is, because we have then Jeramey out here, who in another interview, and I'm so sorry, I don't know specifically where all these interviews were from, because I was reading headlines and seeing little clips and whatnot. But in an interview, Jeramey then said that he would be doing a disservice to himself if he would deny himself the opportunity to get to know AD one day. He just has a way with words, doesn't he?
Wow, congrats to him. I mean, you know what my thing is? I'm just really happy that he can really just be himself now. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, he's allowing himself to be free, and thank God. You know what I mean? Because we've all felt this whole time like, man, I just feel like he's not allowing himself to be free. So that's really nice. He loves interviews too.
He loves it.
He loves causing issues with interviews.
I'm like, Jeramey, what in God's name? What in God's name made you think that it would be a good idea to specifically say AD, who also, Clay, you guys, everything just wrapped.
Yeah.
The tensions are high. There's going to be headlines everywhere. And you're going to specifically, I'm like, listen, I get being in love with AD. I'm in love with AD too. I think we all are. But like, keep it a little low key.
How about text AD? How about text AD? Don't reach out to her through an interview. Like, that's crazy.
There's that too.
You know what I mean? Because then he also does the interview talking about Jess.
Yes, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, no, it's like he can't stop himself in these interviews. I do feel like, and we saw it on the reunion, him throwing out these zingers. I feel like he's living for the attention.
I think so.
And he's tap dancing his way.
There's a lot of girls walking up to him at bars.
Yep.
Are you Jeramey? Yeah. Oh, wow. I mean, let's be real.
And
he's
again,
loving it.
Because Jeramey and Trevor are such idiots, and did like just terrible things on this show. He's
kind of able to escape not the super bad guy, but maybe the guy that like some people don't like, but then some people are interested in. You know what I mean? Like, it kind of worked out really well for him on the level of bad.
Well, because a lot of people like really were giving Chelsea way more heat than they were giving Jeramey. So there was probably a lot of people coming up to him and being like, "Oh, I can't believe Chelsea did it."
Because the only thing you can really say is that the way he broke up was shitty and that their dynamic was kind of toxic. But you can't say, "Oh, he cheated like Jeramey did," or like, emotionally or whatever. And you can't say that he was living a complete lie like Jeramey and Trevor were.
Yeah.
Like, so then his bad is just the way his relationship was, and then maybe like how he handled the breakup, which is, nothing compared to on paper those other things. So it kind of was like it was his moment to kind of go, I can kind of win a little favor here.
But I have something to say to everyone again. Because, I won't shut up about it. If we think about being in Chelsea's position and Jeramey, the first night again, they went out ever as a couple and hung out with everyone. And he said AD stacked and went out of his way to be going up to AD and spinning her around and trying to like be chatting her up. And then Chelsea and him go back to the hotel and he says, absolutely not. What are you talking about? I'm not flirting with AD. I'm not into AD that way. He's saying all these things. Cut to now. And he's saying, I'm be interested in dating AD. So obviously Chelsea could feel that he was interested in AD, which he was. So that's the whole thing about Jeramey. And that's the brain worm that Jeramey caused with Chelsea, is that there was that worm that was implanted. And then
he thought he was with his guy friends when he said it. He just like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Stacked as in like, she's very good at stacking blocks. Like it still goes down as one of the most all time like foot and mouth, forgot where you were for just a millisecond.
I mean, what an absolute, I literally cannot.
It's all time.
Unbelievable. But yes, Jeramey is just out here saying all the things in these interviews. Yes. One of which you brought up being about Jess. Mm-hmm. So one of the conversations that we saw in the reunion was Jess saying, I thought we were friends, But now I will tell you this, from the clips of interviews I've seen of Jess, it is so true that she has been so respectful and kind talking about everyone on this show. There are so many opportunities where I'm sure she could have thrown Jimmy under the bus in conversation, and she has not. She's been extremely respectful. And it seems like what she was saying, we kind of had an understanding of like, that's what we're going to be doing. I thought we were friends. And she's like, I didn't want to see him hurting to this point, and so I'm going to try to help look out and all this stuff. Like, but then you go, Jimmy, on an interview and you say that the reason, like, why did you not pick Jess and you picked Chelsea instead? And apparently Jimmy says that it's because of the way that Jess spoke and handled certain things, and he mentions one of which her having this conversation for like 10 minutes and then storming out.
Like basically saying she acted like a, kind of like a child almost. Like, I'm out of here. And then he's like, well, I don't like this kind of attitude. And this person, I don't know who this person is. They show a post clip, which is epic. It spanned 2 hours and 23 minutes in total.
Their conversation, which by the way, what was killing me is that they inserted that post clip and that was like in post production. Yeah. So Jimmy and Jess had no idea that was going to be there when then this reunion actually aired for all of us.
He said 10 minutes. It was over 2.5 hours. And the things he said that she said, he actually said, like, he asked for an intermission when he said she asked for an intermission. He then asked for an intermission. What her storming out was like, well, then I guess there's not much to talk about for us anymore if that's the case. And okay, bye. That was the storming out. Like, in conclusion to Jimmy, something that I gleaned from this whole conversation that he had with Jess and her and watch the show is I go, first of all, really fragile ego. So like super fragile ego.
Very fragile ego,
and then also like inability to just ever take accountability for his mess ups. So it's like, Jess, I broke up with you because I didn't really like your attitude toward the end and the way you stormed out. Not true.
Right.
Secondly, I broke up with you, Chelsea, because you told people about the hookup I had with my friend. It was never like we had issues. I had a problem with this, this, and this, but I also struggled with this. Or you and Jess, you know what it was? It was just we never could get there towards the end, and I felt like I should have opened up more, but I never really. It was never no accountability ever taken from Jimmy. It's all the girls' faults.
Yes,
which I just thought was a little bit like, wow, that's. You kind of just made them look and feel bad and then left and then made it their fault as opposed to ever saying like, I also play a part in this.
Jess says too, she's like, you said in that interview, I'm really proud of the edit she got, which is very subliminally like under the, like
saying she got a good edit.
Like,
and
she, like there's a chance she couldn't have, you know what I mean?
Basically saying there's a lot they took out. What he was saying is there's a lot they took out and I'm glad she got the good edit.
Yes, at least that's what it alludes to. And she's like, we all know what that means. Yes. We all know what that's alluding to.
So it's just a little, he's a better manipulator than, I think he initially comes across as.
Yeah, and he can come off a little bit like,
yeah, like, well, I don't know. And then, but you realize he's kind of knows what he's doing. He's kind of calculated. He makes multiple comments about like, on camera, off camera, like he's very well, like Chelsea even said, I don't even remember the camera. I wasn't even paying attention to the camera. I was paying attention to us. He's very like, what happened on camera? What happened off camera? How's this going to look? How am I going to look? So,
right. And that's the thing then too, when he was talking to Jess and he's like, well, my perception was that it was 10 minutes. And she's like, well,
no, he said, I'll give you 45.
Oh yeah. And that was an underhanded weird thing to say.
You went from 10, you quadrupled it?
That's a big time difference, dude.
It's not like he said, I'll give you 15 minutes. I'll give you 45 because he started realizing, oh shit, I think you are right.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to give you the full 2 hours, but I'll give you 45. Like he started to realize like he probably thought in that moment, they're going to show something.
Yeah,
like,
you're
they're
right.
Gonna check
he might have thought about that. Yeah. And then like you said, when we saw that whole thing back, it was very much like
completely wrong.
What I was a little gobsmacked by is the moment where he said, I think we need to take a break. And I go, oh shit, he's the one who asked for a break even.
Yes.
And it was all very polite and
cordial. It wasn't. No one stormed out. No one was yelling. They both handled it clean. Like there was no reason to go on an interview and either of them say anything bad happened.
But here's the bottom line: he keeps getting the question, "Why did you choose Chelsea and not Jess. And instead of just saying it like it is, again, if I was Jimmy, it would just be like, dude, just say it. Just be honest and be like, I chose Chelsea because she said she looks like Megan Fox. Yes. So now he's going on interviews and not being willing to just say it's because she said she looks like Megan Fox.
He would be hated if he said that.
And instead he's going, well, it's because I don't like the tone of Jessica's voice.
If he could have sprinkled in some apologies too, he could have been so much more authentic with like, hey, you know what? I didn't like this, but I'll be honest with you. I was close. Like if he would have just been honest about his fuck ups a little bit, he could have at least connected with people. Yeah. Instead, it was always just everyone else's fault.
And there were a few moments I will say during the reunion when they were talking about Chelsea exposing his, quote unquote secret with his friend that he then said, which we'll get into in a moment here, but he then said, I get why she felt like she needed to say it. I just didn't like how it happened. So I appreciated that he said that, at least where there was an acknowledgement of like, I get why she felt like she did want to put it out there. So there were moments where I was like, okay, Jimmy. And listen, at the end of the day, it's like you and I kept saying, I'm like, I can't necessarily point to tons of specific things where I'm like, how dare he? There's just an energy.
No, it's just an energy.
But I will say, man, the kid rubs me the wrong way, but I do enjoy watching him on reality TV. I do enjoy it. I'm like, and I could see Jimmy in a future other reality TV show where I would love to be annoyed by him.
I think he's good at it. I think he's good at it.
I think he's good at reality TV.
I think he's good at it. I think he's the best on the show at reality TV.
He doesn't act like he's good at it, which makes him good at it.
I think he's the best there, best on the show.
Yeah.
At the thing.
At knowing what to do. Because even with his little Jeramey moment, we'll talk about, he knew how to handle that the right way. Build it up, the tension, but then drop it down.
Yeah, I think he's good at it. I think a lot of people there just kind of like experiencing it, and then some people are there for like the total bad reasons, like the Jeremeys. Yeah. But then like he's kind of in the middle where he's like, you could tell he was aware of this process, but also it was like he's good at it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I do then also want to quickly touch on the Chelsea and Jimmy. Well, I guess cast conversation about Chelsea bringing up Jimmy's, quote unquote secret. But one more quick pause before we do that, family. I'll tell you what. This whole time I was watching the reunion, all I could think about was, I wish I could ship Nick Lachey a guitar and hear him TikTok serenade us all. That's all we wanted. We just wanted a full TikTok serenade from him mid-reunion. That's the only thing that really could have made it better, right? Get that guitar flown in, shipped in for him stat. Anywho, speaking of shipping, let's talk about our favorite, Stamps.com. You got a small business, Stamps.com is magic for it. Stamps.com streamlines all of your mailing and shipping to turbocharge your operational efficiencies, and the Stamps.com app is like a post office in your pocket, so you can stay on top of things even if you're always on the go. Evan and I have been using Stamps.com for personal and business uses for like a decade over here at this point, so clearly we're fans. I mean, for 25 years, Stamps.com has been indispensable for over 1 million businesses, whether they're mailing out checks, invoices, legal documents, books, or anything else.
Use Stamps.com to print postage wherever you do business. All you need is a computer and a printer. That's it. They even send you a free scale, so you'll have everything you need to get started. If you need a package pickup, you can easily schedule it through your Stamps.com dashboard, too.
I love that feature so much. And here's the thing. Postage rates just increased again. Luckily, Stamps.com has the best discounts in the industry with rates you can't find anywhere else, like up to 89% off USPS and UPS. Plus, Stamps.com automatically tells you your cheapest and fastest shipping options, so you don't have to navigate all the different carriers. And if you sell products online, Stamps.com seamlessly connects with every major marketplace and shopping cart. Keep your mailing and shipping moving at the speed of your business with Stamps.com. Sign up with promo code MOMDAD for a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. Just go to Stamps.com, click the microphone at the top of the page, and enter code MOMDAD. Okay, so the other thing that I did want to bring up is that, yes, the Chelsea and Jimmy piece of her bringing up him having slept with his friend. Now, of course, I think in everyone's opinion, like, it's not okay. He said, please don't bring this up on camera. And this is about someone who is not on the show and did not sign up to be a participant. So you can't be like dragging their personal life into it. It's not okay.
Sure.
So I think we all can understand, like agree upon that. But I did find it interesting that at one point then, you know, when they both said, hey, this is kind of what ended it all. Jimmy was like, that was the beginning of the end. I watch myself back and I go, yeah, I can see it on my face. Yeah. After that happened, I was never in it. And I was like, you can watch yourself and see yourself smiling and tell your friends that you can't wait to be with her for the rest of your life and marry her. That was you being done. Like,
yeah, it's
when you were carving through that ice sculpture and you were like, I love you and we'll be together for forever. I'm like, you were done and you could see that on yourself. That's a little jarring.
It's also wild just to like feel that way and then just tell people. It's one thing to be like, hey, I need a break, or hey, I need to kind of sit back and think about this. Then I knew it was over. It's another to be like, I doubled down, told her how much I loved her, told her we were getting married, everything's great, I loved her, I kissed her, and then like the night before I broke up with her. Like that's what's crazy to me, is to be like, that's what's scary out there for people in relationships.
For sure.
It's like people go like, oh, I was blindsided. It's like, yeah, imagine being that other person saying, oh, later on they're saying, yeah, I knew it was over when this happened. And it's like, yeah, but then after that night you told me that you can't wait to marry me. Like it's such like, that's a jarring place to be.
The men on this season,
it's not a good look.
Everyone's out there just like, God damn, this is what's out here.
Yeah,
these are the options in the dating world right now, because my God.
Yeah, okay? Why? Yeah, it's crazy.
Just the worst. But
yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a breach of trust in a big way. So it's a tough one where it's like, man, Jimmy didn't represent himself well in multiple areas. And like you said, even Jeramey was like aware of how much he was not going to be liked. But I will say, like, that was a pretty big like breach.
No, it was a breach of trust.
Like you did bring someone else into it now, and now it's like you kind of brought up something that was super personal and kind of told in confidence. She did it in a panic snap way.
Yes.
You know, it wasn't like something she thought about. She probably just did it and then realized. She said she apologized to him 1,000,000 times, which is totally cool.
And that's the thing. We then see Chelsea being like, I know it was terrible. Oh my gosh, it was awful. I apologized to him so many times on camera and off camera, all of those things. And it was terrible. And she, you know, she's not trying to make excuses for it. But I found it interesting that then when Nick took kind of like the cast's thoughts, their thoughts on someone saying, don't say something on camera, and then saying it, I felt like the cast was a little more like, and even Micah from the stands was kind of like, hey, you know what though? She felt like she needed to explain what was going on, which I do think is an interesting point. And again, I think two things can be true. Her doing it wasn't okay, but I also feel like then it's not okay. It's tough because it's like, I get then Jimmy, he needs to be honest with her, but then it's also like, he's putting her in a position where it's like, hey, you can't share why you're going bonkers on camera, but like I'm still gonna tell you. It's a very sticky. That's a sticky one, because then from her perspective, it's like, no, I need the audience to know why I'm so thrown off about this, because you know it is a tough one. It's a tough one.
Yeah, I get the feeling with Chelsea that it wasn't even that. It wasn't even the fact that she knew or that she needed the audience to know or any of that. I think that when she gets hurt, she kind of just, all bets are off, and she starts spiraling, and she'll just kind of go bop, and so I think that was a bop moment where she just goes, yeah, fucked her, you know what I mean? Like, it was so dramatic too. It was so dramatic. She was
also drunk.
She was drunk. It was a drunk, dramatic kind of snap to this feeling of like confusion in the relationship, so that it was one of those like, you can't take it back because now it's on camera, and it's like, oh, it's brutal.
It was so brutal. But then, they also talked to her about looking like Megan Fox. And, you know, listen, Chelsea got so much heat this season, and there were so many moments watching that were so brutal. And it was just like, wow, I really hope that she is taking care of herself, going to therapy, doing all the things. But I felt like she was in this reunion, you know, when she found out about, or when the world came for her for the Megan Fox thing, all she's done is joke about it. She hasn't gotten defensive. I felt like in this reunion, she was so gracious with everybody. You know, I don't know. I feel like I feel like she is very likable. I really do.
I completely do. I think, and I will say,
a lot of people don't like her, but I think she seems like a nice person.
Yeah,
a lovely person.
I sympathize with her on this. Like, she kept saying, "I was a dumb, quick comment amongst when you think about it, like hours of conversations." Yeah. And she just kind of probably thought, "This is a risky move. You know, I'm gonna say a Megan Fox. I'll kind of tease his brain a little bit. Haha." That was all it. Little did she know that this guy was going to use it as his like lifting point to choose her. Like, clearly it was a stupid little comment. They're in there for hours. She had no idea it was going to explode into this nationwide thing. It was a dumb comment, but it was like, there's certain comments that you can't, even if they're dumb and small, you can't make. That was one of them. In a dating show not about looks, you can't talk about your looks in an incredibly positive way. It'd be like, it's like a certain you can't be like, hey, you meet your girlfriend's sister and just accidentally say like, whoa, she's my type. You know,
right.
It's like, now, for the rest of your life, your girlfriend knows that like you're hot for her sister, and now it's awkward forever. Like, there's certain comments you can't take back and might haunt you for the rest of your life. You know what I mean? So like, there's certain things you just got to go, probably not a smart idea on TV to say this.
Very true.
Like,
speaking of haunting me for the rest of my life, Jeramey.
Oh boy.
Jeramey is next. In fact, he's the
worst
first
look of all time.
Evan, that look, it was like, I mean, whomst allowed him to go on stage?
Whites. I mean, what are you filming a TV show for like a drug mule in the 80s? Like,
it also
what is
looks
this
like
look, dude?
a Spirit Halloween costume too.
Yes.
Like the suit looked like a Spirit Halloween suit.
I also didn't like that he was like playing a funny moment with it. Like, he's like, you know me, I was always the Hawaiian shirt guy, and that was a funny moment that Laura made fun of me about, and that became...
we're all like, we don't like you, Jeramey.
No. Yeah. Now's not the time to come out and have a bit.
Well, he kept trying to do that. After they interviewed him and everyone was like, boo.
Yeah.
He kept trying to kind of jump in and say like, and have funny moments like how Jimmy was doing.
Like,
and everyone's like,
you need to pretend you need to pretend there's a T-Rex in the room and you're like frozen, like no one can see you if you don't move.
Hide under the couch. Actually, take a note from Trevor and be like, can I leave now?
Yes.
And get off the stage.
Yes.
You and Sarah Ann should have gone. They should have left the stage, you know, if they knew it was good for them, hours, I'm sure, before.
100%.
Like, they stayed on way too long.
100%. I don't understand the like he may, because maybe he is that delusional that I could maybe win him back with a little more humor, that everyone will just kind of relax a little bit. Or he's just a guy at the party that won't shut up, that doesn't read the room.
Well, we thought that he was that guy from day one.
We thought he was from that.
But I also think he's the type of guy who he is delusional. Like, and I think we saw it. So basically they have Jeramey, you know, he's like, yes, I've been dating someone this whole time. They bring out Sarah Ann.
Yeah.
Wow. What a their fits together. It was a lot. Like it was just a lot. Like,
it was
together,
a lot of look at me energy for someone who they should not be doing that.
I would have been dressed in like literally camouflage
Funeral
to the carpet.
attire.
No, I would have been like camo to the carpet, be like, you're not seeing me. Like, I'm blending in. But yeah, no, it was very like, they stood in front of the mirror and they're like, let's have the loudest Prince possible. So
and also I think about this. I go, it's been a year.
Yeah.
1 year. So it's like, it's not like this was filmed a week after the weddings all went to shit.
Yeah.
1 whole year.
Yeah.
That's a lot of time to sit, ponder, reflect.
Go to therapy.
Kind of just vibe on it. Don't take anything, like, not let the hate sit anymore. Even if you disagree, think about, I'm just going to be chill. You know, bygones be bygones. Even just like reach out to Laura and just be like, we're cool, right? Like, but to just spend a whole year and learn what effectively seems like nothing and walk onto the show and have the same energy as if you were at the lake again.
Oh, that
was shocking to me.
It was jarring. Well, I think that just goes to show kind of, you know, who these people were.
That's true. But even if you were going to be like a bad guy, like, you would think you'd be like, okay, I don't want to look worse by being rash and emotionally.
They clearly feed each other's.
Oh my God.
Like
they're toxic. Speaking of toxic,
yeah.
There's no way they're not.
They feed each other's villain energy. And listen, we hear it's like, yes, we've been together for a year and now we live together. And that moment at one point when Nick was like, have you seen Jeramey out and about though? And Chelsea was like, yeah. And every time I do, he's broken up with Sarah Ann. And then we get a little window and we're like, oh. So it hasn't been a year straight of absolute bliss. You two are on again, off
they're
again.
They're iconic liars too, because the amount of lies that they got called out for was insane. And they're so political too, because he would get called out for lying and be like, well, here's the thing. Relationships go through ups and downs. He always had a line and kind of like a trying to get out of the lie he was caught in. It was never just like, yeah, we did break up. That was bad. When I saw you, it was like we were in a bad spot. And so we got back together. It was always, for us, it's always like, how do I massage this to not.
You absolutely just nailed that. They do give off absolute from a movie.
They just lie about everything.
Dirty politician couple energy. They're like the
never give a straight up answer.
And and they're just like just seething behind the scenes constantly, and they just have lied about everything and like, oh yeah, that's like 100%.
It's even just the whole even the whole Nick, and they're talking about the location. Like, why would you share your location if you're gonna deny it? Well, here's the thing is, I don't really truly, it's like really remember exactly, and I couldn't really tell you. It was just so politics vibe. It's like, sir, were you there when the insider trading? And they're like, I can't really remember because it was like so long. It was like 2 weeks ago. I don't know what I was doing. The amount of times he said I don't remember was crazy.
The amount of times he said I don't remember, I was like, you should go to a doctor. You need to go to a doctor, sir, because
you don't remember anything.
You don't remember anything. But you need to get that checked on, okay?
Yeah, because I don't think that's the issue.
But their energy, like you said, it was pretty bewildering that they came out so on the defense. It was like, what are you guys? It was like, what are you all doing this evening? It's Trevor comes out, nothing prepared. These two come out fully on the defense.
Well, we got Laura and Jeramey going at it. Right?
Yeah, so Laura's come in from Zoom because she's in Barcelona and she is on a work trip, which also just feels very power movie, by the way.
I can't be there, sorry.
She's like, I'm overseas in a gorgeous city and work comes first, obviously.
Yes,
and yes, I am dating someone now.
So you're available to do this show or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're going at it. Laura's doing the whole, like, he's a clown. She's coming at him. She's getting some stuff off her chest. And, they're kind of going back and forth with like facts. I don't remember exactly what happened, but it was just like, I remember exactly what happened, but it was like, they're going back with this happened to this. Well, not quite. And the location, well, not quite. I did go to her house. Well, no, we didn't. I dropped her off.
He's trying to nitpick and be right about like one or two tiny insignificant details. Yes. And it's like, you're missing. And they kept, and Vanessa and Nick kept stopping him and being like, yeah, but you're dodging the question.
100%.
Still.
And then she goes, the day that he met my parents and told me he loved me, we were married, is the day that he went out with her till 6 a.m. Blah, blah, blah. The issue too was like, so he's nitpicking her instead of just apologizing. Mm-hmm. She's going off on him. She's letting him have it, right?
Yep.
And he has a moment there he could chill and just be like, I deserve it. I'm an idiot. Blah, blah. What made it even, because he's kind of like doing the kind of move where I'm not going to let myself emotionally snap, but I'm going to just deny. Then she comes in and
Sarah Ann?
Yeah, Sarah Ann. So there was kerosene and there was a spark in the corner.
Yeah.
And then she goes, oh, hell yeah. And took a flamethrower to the room. Because she comes in and you don't talk to him like that. And you don't know anything.
You're a pick-me girl.
And you're not a girl's girl either. You suck. I was crying. And then Jess comes in and she's like, no, you got really Jerry Springer there. That's my kid. And you're not the father. Like it got real like, Jerry Springer up in there. And she starts attacking everyone.
Yes.
And then, it was either Vanessa or Nick who like kind of called out like, so do you talk to any of the women at all? And she's like, haven't spoken to any of them. And that's when you really saw the like insecurity of her, where instead of humbling herself, reaching out to everyone and say, guys, I played this whole thing wrong. I was selfish. I was rude. I really missed you guys. Can you please forgive me? It was the like, no, fuck you. Before you can hurt me.
Well, and then Chelsea goes, well, after the lake day, she unfollowed all of us girls and kept following our fiancés.
Which is a gnarly move.
Like,
but again, another politician move. Instead of going, I was hurt, she goes, yeah, well, but that's because you guys excluded me from a group text.
Yeah.
So it's like, you're intentionally unfollowing all of us, still following our guys.
And then Jess, by the way, she bodied this reunion.
She kind of sat in the middle almost. She was almost one of the hosts.
Yeah, Jess is like 10s across the board. Yeah. She crushed. I mean, she looked at Sarah Ann and she goes, I, more than anyone, can relate to your situation.
Yes.
Okay, like I see you, I hear you. And she didn't come for her throat. She's like, we just all think you guys could have gone about this a little more respectfully. Yes. And it was the most reasonable, like calm
Straight
thing
up.
ever. And it was like, do you guys can you not look in a mirror and realize how bananas you are? And you guys are so defensive. And all we're saying is you could have handled this better. And you guys are going to come out here.
But they had been sitting on it for a year. You could tell they were sitting on it and they had not thought once, we should do this calmly.
No.
It was like, we're going to let them have it.
Well, and we got a little insight too where Laura said, I found out that Sarah Ann had been telling other people that Jeramey and her had not left the parking lot that night.
So they've had a
corroborated story.
Yes.
So these two are just villains.
Oh, you don't think, there's no question that Jeramey left that night and went, by the way, I never dropped you off. Just remember that. Oh yeah, we're on the same page. Like, you know what I mean?
100%. Well, and then at numerous points where he was like, relax. Jeramey is the mastermind.
Jeramey's like, dude, if you keep blowing up, we're going to look even worse. Like, keep it.
No.
He was very
Jeramey is the mastermind. Again, I'm going to go back to Tom Sandoval. Okay. It's so Tom Sandoval. He is the mastermind. He was just like how Tom Sandoval had like clearly been like coaching Raquel for the reunion, for the Vanderpump reunion. You know what I mean? That's exactly what Jeramey was. He's like, let's wear bright, fun outfits to hopefully people will think they're fun and exciting. And let's play this certain way and do this and and come for them and be a united front. Because at numerous times the camera would shoot to them and they'd both be like shaking their head together and like nodding together. Jeramey's the mastermind.
Yes.
And then, Sarah Ann would pop in, getting emotional and getting heated. And he was just like, but that's
because
the energy.
I truly do believe that she's hurt and sad that she's no longer. She probably sees them post.
I think so too.
Like I truly do believe.
I bet she wants to be friends with everybody.
I think she sees the post. Probably they're going to a party. They're having a birthday thing, and she's not invited to any of it. I think it breaks her heart. I think she's terribly sad how the whole thing worked out. I think she chose the wrong ally. I think she's trying to make the relationship work probably because it's the only thing that'll kind of like be left over. Jeramey's the one that's definitely like kind of heartless about the whole thing and just is kind of like whatever. I think he's used to dealing in this way. You could tell because of how emotional she is that she's like sad that she lost all her friends.
Oh, 100%.
And that she's kind of with this guy that like has ruined the whole thing. And so she's, instead of being humble, she doubles down and she's like, well, then it's us against the world, baby. Like,
well, and by the way, we saw that clip of the lake that they showed us where Laura and Sarah Ann were talking.
And she was like,
no Sarah Ann was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. And by the way, I do have to say, credit where credit is due. I felt like Laura was very gracious with Sarah Ann during that conversation. That was so fresh, by the way, so fresh. And she just looked at Sarah Ann and was just like, what you did wasn't respectful to me, but it's not about you, it's about him. And she kind of just was like, listen up, girl. Just so you know, he's full of shit. What did you call him? A fucking clown robot in the pods. These are all the things that he did.
The de-evolution too, because Sarah in that clip was a lot more gracious comparatively to what she was on the show. And like, so you could see that like those before she really kind of descended into what we saw on the reunion.
Yeah.
She was kind of, I am sorry about the way I did it. I just thought this. Like she was a lot more like relatable. You could tell that she was still kind of hanging on the fact that there was some friendships there. There was still some connection.
And like Laura said, she's like, I felt like I was you were having me like give you relationship advice during that.
Yeah.
But no, I completely agree with you. There was a part of her where it was like, hey, there was still a piece of her that was like down to try to keep the relationships going and to be like, I'm really sorry for how this happened and everything, blah, blah, blah. But after being a year with Jeramey,
it happens. I mean, I feel like we both know people like that who descended into bad relationships.
Yeah.
And then they kind of like, it's like they kind of hit this break point where it's like, do I deny everyone's opinion about us that agrees that we're a toxic relationship or we're bad or whatever? Or do I agree with them and leave? Well, if I don't leave, I have to kind of go middle finger to everyone and it's us against them. And you could tell they had that energy of like, she was on the fence, like trying to kind of have both. And then it just became a point where it's like, it's us against you, which
Well, during that Laura and Sarah Ann conversation, that's when Laura says, well, Jeramey said that like all he cares about is his image, which by the way is so, again, it's like it pulsates off of him, and he is God. But especially watching this reunion, it was just like, get him off the stage, please. But she's like, all he cares about is his image, and he even said he's looking worse than Jimmy now. So then
she got him so good with that one, dude. It was amazing because he was already barbecued, but then she goes, yeah, and then he was like so obsessed with the fact that like he's gonna look worse than Jimmy, and you could see his face like humiliated.
Well, he also too, it's a little bit like Jimmy and I think were okay. So then for that to be out there too, he was like, Jimmy was like, dude, thanks, bro.
Yeah.
And then Jimmy had that moment where he's like, yeah, well, I'll tell you what, when we were in the pods and I was really struggling, all the guys were there for me and giving me an encouraging word. He's like, and then Jeramey's out here going, I can sleep well tonight knowing that Jimmy's the villain. And I'm like, yikes.
Yeah, he did it twice.
Yikes. And like Jimmy said too, he's like, Jeramey's like, well, I don't remember if that happens. He's like, well, you remember enough to be talking about it in your relationship.
Both times,
still.
Because again, that was so many lies in the politician thing. Was like, she goes, yeah, and she was worried that he was worried that he was going to look worse than Jimmy, and he goes, I don't really remember ever that, and I think that was kind of out of context. And then 2 seconds later, Jimmy goes, yeah, he said to me, I can sleep well knowing he's the villain. He goes, I don't remember that at all. I don't think that.
I'm like, stop trying to
someone check this guy's memory. Because something's going on.
Stop trying to do the Star Wars thing to us, dude, okay? Where you're like, I never saw the droids or whatever.
He has a very specific disease. And it's when you can only forget things you did wrong.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
sure.
It's a very unique disease.
Yeah. I've heard of that.
Yeah,
I've
very rare.
Yeah. Very, very rare.
It's called gaslitis.
Oh, you got it. Yeah,
and it's really it's growing. It's bad.
He's got a hot case of it.
Gaslititis, it's bad.
He's got a hot case of it. But that was absolutely bananas, watching the two of them. And then, they finally got to a point where after Jessica like said the piece where she's like, you guys could have just handled it better. They finally started to simmer down. And that's then when Nick and Vanessa come in and Jeramey and Sarah Ann are punished publicly by Love is Blind production. They take the punishment because then all of a sudden it turns into like, you went on TikTok and I don't even know, you went on Reels and said that like we gave you quite a show and it's all basically for entertainment. We killed it, babe. Yeah. And then it became this whole like, you don't think this is real? And like, were you here like just trying to fake it? And then it took this weird twist. And I found that to be interesting where I was like, okay, well, clearly Sarah Ann and Jeramey have done this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. Specifically Jeramey, just like this wrong, this wrong, this wrong, this wrong. But then Vanessa and Nick are going to hone in on a couple weird specific things about maybe her potentially spoiling the season, them making these comments, and I was like, this is production punishment. Ooh. And I wonder too, because Jeramey had done a few things where he was like, oh, just wait, I'm gonna share, which go ahead and share, buddy. You have nothing to say and we don't care to hear it. Okay. You're full of lies and we all know it. But maybe him posting those certain things and her potentially ruining the season, it was like, you will now pay from production. And they were like, we're going to make this we're going to even turn the heat up more on you, which was so wild. But
yeah, because there's this fine line. It's like with like a likable villain too. Where you're like, they start doing the TikToks where they're kind of like semi-spoiling an ending or like da-da-da. And there's certain people that are really talented at like pulling off the kind of likable villain where you're like, I hate him, but there's something about him. I kind of love him. They descended into like unlikable villain where it's like, now you're not even making sense. You're kind of maybe semi-spoiling the show, which everyone's going to be pissed about. Yeah. You're like saying it's all entertainment when you're like, wait, this is actually kind of one of the shows we watch for kind of, I don't want to say the right reasons, but a lot of shows kind of have comparatively. I mean, when we see the amount of marriages that stay,
they said 9 still people are married.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's like one of the most successful shows when it comes to marriages. So it's like one of the most like, you're kind of like, I'm actually watching what's going on here. Shows they have out there.
It's still reality TV,
of course. But I'm just saying, like they really do have a lot of success, and so you're kind of like, so then she's really trying to, ruin it a little bit. So yeah, it's just production would not appreciate any of this.
No. But then the thing is too, like you said, some people are, can come out and be these villains that are still, they draw in the audience.
They have a charm to them.
But I think the bottom line is this. You can't do that because what like Jeramey did when you step backwards and you're like, look at what went down. He fully lied. He snuck behind Laura's back. They now are united front lying together. Where are you going to go from there?
You usually have to have redeemable qualities. Like I made a mistake, but you all like me as a person. Yes. So there's this thing. But when no one likes you as a person and you do the wrong thing, you're just bad.
There's nothing there. There's absolutely nothing there. But anywho, that was the general vibe of that portion.
It was the icky part.
It was the icky part. That's for sure. And then we had AD and Clay.
Which was shocking to me.
Yeah.
To me personally.
I know.
Okay, this is like the I told you so moment. And I understand that it's looking like that. And I think you're right. I was expecting them to not be together. So that was not a shock to me.
Okay.
But what I was not ready for was basically Clay being like, I'm waiting outside her apartment for the day that she lets me in out of the rain.
Yeah, she's the love of my life.
I assumed he would have been like, I'm sorry for the way I did this, because he was that way all the way to the end. He was always very like open about his problems, his struggles, all that stuff. What I was not ready for was the literally like, if she'll take me back, I'm begging and I'm waiting.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to say, I'm not dating, I'm focusing on my business. I'm working nonstop. I realize that I need to work on myself. But the fact that he's like, I've worked on myself and I'm ready, please call me. Yeah. That was shocking to me. Yeah. And then she was like, nah, I'm all good, basically.
Yeah.
Shocked.
I've seen like clips and I heard from a friend of mine that she like heard AD say something about that it gives like maybe situationship energy. That like they're still kind of seeing each other, which I mean, I don't know. I hope for AD's sake, I'm like, AD just, deserves the world. I'm like, no, don't go from like engagement to situationship.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, no, I felt like the AD and Clay interview portion, I don't know, you just saw Clay be really communicative about the fact that he has been using this past year to really, really work on himself, really being specific about the therapy of it all. He's even letting us know, he's like, yeah, I tried different therapists. Like, I'm not just, I didn't just do therapy one time. Like, I'm trying to meet the right person, the right fit for me. I regret this. That's the love of my life.
Dude, Clay should have been teaching a class to Jimmy and Jeramey on how to, because Clay,
and also Clay sat back the whole time unless he was asked to like answer a question. So it was like, he
nailed it perfectly.
Yeah, he really did.
And it's amazing how when you're humble, how much everything diffuses. Like all he did was talk about how he messed up. The whole time.
Yep.
That's all he did. He did not say one time she was this, she was actually this. All he did was say, I fucked the whole thing.
Yep.
And he's the one who did the least. All he did was just say, I can't be with you because I have my own issues.
Yeah.
And I still want to be with you, but like, So like, yeah, he broke her heart at the altar, but it's not like he was doing anything wrong other than just being honest the whole time and struggling with himself. And yet he apologized the most out of everyone.
Yeah. And that was the thing too. And you saw it even with the host where it's like Nick was, after he was being vulnerable about what he did and where he was struggling and what he regrets, Nick was like, I really respect you for talking and being vulnerable and open about needing therapy and needing to change and all of that. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. And his big thing too, which really stood out to me, is that he was saying that what he was processing was, he was like, am I a bad person?
Right.
And all of that, which I felt like really kind of spoke to what I was talking about in the finale, what I was getting from him, where I felt like he was there. And then when he saw his dad, he had all these things that were rushing back in. And that was like the big struggle. And he even said too, he was like, I don't know where to learn. I don't feel like there's people there to teach us. He's like, when you go from like a rock star lifestyle of being like this athlete to then being like, there's this one person. And I remember him saying at one point in the finale, where he's like, no one talks about the gray areas of marriage. And I saw people being like, what the fuck are you talking about? The gray areas of marriage. I'm like, I felt like I got what he was saying. It's like you hear about the parts of marriage where it's like you're absolutely in love and everything's great and perfect. And then you hear about like you've been fighting, it's not working out, someone cheats and it ends. But the gray area being like, what happens when you have those seasons where you're not attracted to each other as much, or you are arguing with each other and you feel like you want to be with someone else? Like that is the gray area of marriage. I heard what he was saying, 100%. By the way.
And there's two things to this that I think,
heard.
Yes, I think there's two things that are really important.
Yeah.
Number one is if you've never been in a long-term committed relationship and you've always been person to person to person to person, all of a sudden in your brain, you're going, I don't know if I can do the one person thing. It scares me because I have never done it. And I'm afraid that I'm going to wake up and break this person's heart 3 years into marriage because I cheat or something happens, even though, whatever.
Yeah. Valid.
Also, and this is just like very few of anyone out there has any idea what it's like to be as like charming and good looking as Clay.
Sure.
So if he's like a top level athlete, let's say in college or something too, like very few people understand what it's like to have basically a version of whatever you want all the time.
Yeah.
Where he it was probably a large chunk of his life where he could walk into any bar and charm people, and you know what I mean? So it's like if that's always available to you too, and you've lived a life when anything is hard, you kind of just left and went to the next thing.
Sure.
And then all this, so it's like there's a lot of that too, where it's like he's probably thought, I've lived this lifestyle, well, I've just done whatever I wanted to do always, and I've actually never had to say no for a long period of time, and he was always honest about it. So that's where I really sympathized with him, and also just kind of thought, I'm glad that he didn't propose to her because he knew probably down the line I was going to mess this whole thing up.
Yeah. Well, at one point then, when he's holding back tears, which we haven't seen from
he was
Clay.
About to bawl.
He was like, and he was just like, hey, she's the love of my life. I made a mistake. I regret this. And then AD was like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Which really hit me in the gut.
Because he said love of my life like 3 times.
Yeah. And she's like, what am I supposed to do with that?
That was a little much. That was the only time I was like, bud.
But I
guess he's shooting a shot.
He's just
going
saying
for it.
But then from her perspective, it's like, what am I supposed to do with that information? Like now all of a sudden, like, what am I supposed to say? Like, you made this mistake. You broke my heart. These were my boundaries and what I needed, and you didn't meet those requirements of what I said I needed. And now you're saying all this stuff. Like, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
And then, Vanessa was like, would you ever date Clay again? And she was smirking and blushing, and she was like, next question, which by the way, great answer. I mean,
it means nothing. It's
AD
a great
is
answer.
So charming.
Next question is incredible. It's
also,
like, does she mean yes? Does she mean no?
She looked
incredible.
Anyway, but she was like, next question, but she's smiling and blushing, which then leads to, if it is true, like what I've heard, that there's situationship vibes going between them. That's why maybe she's blushing, smiling about it. And then when Vanessa asks Clay's like, I 100% would get back together with her. And that's when then AD goes, well, you had your chance.
Yeah.
So why aren't we married? And that then left me with question marks, which I need to dive into like interviews and stuff with AD. I'm curious to hear her reaction to being like, next question, and then being like, I would, and then her saying you had your chance. I'm like, are they in their situationship vibes happening again where maybe he's not committing immediately and then maybe saying, I don't know.
Or maybe, they're just hooking up, having a good time, and she's kind of going like, I enjoyed our physical connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had a great one.
Yeah.
But I'm realizing that like, you hurt me too bad.
And also just like, why aren't we married? Like, what are we doing?
You missed the option.
What are we doing right now? And he was just like, well, I wanted to say yes. And he says, by the way, he was like, I was at the altar thinking I was going to say yes. And then I was processing all of those things. So that was like super emotional. And then also they brought in, so during this reunion, we got to be graced by the presence of some of the OG couples, one of which was Brett and Tiffany, who we all love and adore.
Yeah.
And we find out that when Clay was talking about how, he was watching Love is Blind, and he's like, oh, I don't think I'm like that person, and I don't feel like I'm as far enough there and as good of a husband, he was referring to Brett, and they had a very sweet moment moment together where they acknowledged each other and that was definitely that was the tearjerker part of the reunion. But then in a later portion, Matthew gets brought up. Now Matthew declined the invitation to the reunion.
Sad. I was really hoping to see that guy.
Me too. But with this man, he's seemed like a sharp character to us, even though he did say all the exact same things, and that seemed to.
But this was all calculated play.
Very, very calculated. So he's like, I'm not showing up.
Yeah.
They end up showing us the receipts of play by play between Amber and AD, what Matthew said in the pods. We see he's saying almost word for word the exact same thing. It's so jarring. AD's laughing through it like, oh my God. And then Vanessa's like, have you seen Matthew since? And AD's like, yeah, we've gone on some dates.
That was shocking.
My jaw hit the floor.
I was just like, what?
My jaw hit the floor.
And she's like, he's cute.
Well, okay.
She doubled down on how cute he was.
Well, and so that's why I think they probably went on some dates because
I love the angle he did Clay like right there.
Clay was just like this.
He's like, oh, I understand. I don't need to hear it again. I understand. You've already said it to me 20 times personally to make me jealous. I understand.
But no, I'm like, okay, the reason that she went on this date with Matthew, because there were a few times during the season that Matthew got brought up and everyone kept calling him Clark Kent. And AD would be like, Clark Kent? Like, right. Really? And I'm like, okay, so she thought he was cute. And she wanted to go on a date with him. And then also coming off of the hurt of Clay, it wasn't, I mean, listen, I'm like, again, I want the best for AD. So I'm like, AD, run
whatever
in the
AD
opposite
wants.
Direction, though, of Matthew. Like, get away from Matthew. You know that this
more
man.
Of Lex Luthor.
Yeah. You know that this man said the exact same thing to you and Amber. Why are you going on a date with him? I'm like, no. But I get why when you're hurting and you're kind of like, well, this guy, apparently he looks like Clark Kent and he did say that he would run away with me. He said it to 2 people, but maybe we could try our hand at this. But she then ends up saying that they didn't have too much of a connection because they wanted 2 very different things. Yeah. And Clay handles it well.
Clay's already licked his wounds. He's already kind of gone through this, luckily.
So we'll see if anything ends up happening between AD and Clay, if anything blossoms from it.
Clay, if you keep going, you never know.
Yeah, I mean...
She might need to see it in action, long enough.
Yeah, like I can see them being the type of couple that in 2 years, all of a sudden they reunite and he's grown and they work out.
Because it's a lot to make up.
Yeah,
because now she's thinking, wait, are we going to go on the altar again? And then you might leave again. And
it'll be traumatizing.
And the embarrassment and all that.
It's like runaway bride, but runaway groom.
Runaway groom. So it's a little bit like, it's a big hill to climb to get her back on the altar.
100%. 100%. Well, another couple that we heard from was Kenneth and Brittany.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, these 2, I mean, there's not much to say except for the fact that they're apparently best
They
friends.
text every day.
They talk on the phone.
Now, that is best case scenario if you end up not being with someone. You're like, I actually just found my best friend.
No, she's like, you know what I figured out? She's like, I figured out that the only way that I could get him to talk to me is if I text him. So I just sit in the other room when I text him.
Yeah, because Nick goes, well, we know he always has his phone. That was a great burn.
That was a great burn.
Because that was his thing at home. He's like, I love being on my phone and Vanessa won't let me on my phone. So I'm going to call you out to kind of just let her see that I am starting to agree. It was, you know what I'm saying? It's like if I can't golf, I'm going to shit on everyone who golfs.
Nick's like, I swear to God, I'm not on Instagram again. I'm just listening to
texting the
Halsey on Spotify. I'm learning the chords.
I'm learning the chords, babe. And she's like, you're always on your phone. And he's like, Kenneth is going to get it tonight because I've been getting it. So it's like, you're passing on your trauma. So he's like, you're always on your phone, bro. Right, Vanessa? Isn't that crazy? Because when they watched the episode, she was like, honestly, there's no difference between you and him. And he's like, what? Yeah, honestly, that's my marriage. They had a big talk about it.
She did say, by the way, after they talked to Kenneth and Brittany specifically about that, she's like, I do have to say watching the show is like therapy because we do end up getting in these long conversations. Yes. You're 100% right. You. Nick and Vanessa she was like, you're always on your fucking phone.
Always on your phone.
Figured it out just
always on your phone.
Do you see how it makes me feel?
Yeah. But I thought it was interesting because he called out what I was always interested in, which is like the lack of care
during the breakup.
Yeah, during the breakup, he was just like, all right, cool. And he just like stayed on his phone and was texting, like, I'm on my way to your house, bro. Like, right as he broke up with her, didn't even shed a tear, not even a moment of anything. But then he says that he called Clay in shambles. I don't know. I'm not really buying it. I kind of took it as like, he's like, everyone struggles in their own way. I personally think that he wasn't that attached to the whole situation. I think that she loved the idea of him, but like, you know, definitely wasn't that into him.
Because when he said everyone handles stuff in their own way, I'm like, I feel like the true test to see if that's how Kenneth handles things is to compare how he acted, like the full footage of how he acted with him and Brittany's breakup versus if all of a sudden Kenneth's in the middle of texting and you grab the phone away.
You throw it into a river.
See what happens.
And see if he's just like, whatever. Sobbing. Or if he's like, no, then you know it's bullshit. Yeah, you grab his phone and just dunk it in water and ruin it and see kind of what he does. If you like, if you have a bigger reaction about losing your fiance over your phone, we'll know. But yeah, that was and then she's just really sweet.
You know, the vibe that I was getting from Brittany is that she was feeling very protective of her and Kenneth's relationship.
Yeah, I agree.
I feel like she doesn't seem to like people talking negatively about Kenneth, which I thought was lovely, where it's like, okay,
she doesn't
clearly
like him, but she feels protective of him almost.
No, I feel like they clearly like each other. They talk every
No, I mean,
day.
like each other as friends and stuff. But like, she never was like that into him. She was more like
romantically,
romantically. She was like trying to make it work and trying to create it.
Yeah, because that was an interesting moment when they were like, well, what if you would have like done it, and would you have had the crave then? Which I love that they were using the term the crave. It was just killing me.
Yeah,
but then
the crave, like you're at church. It was so churchy. The crave for each other's earthly temple. It's just like, okay, can you just stop it?
But like Brittany then said, you know, hey, I don't think we needed, like, we figured out we didn't have the crave without having to go there.
By the way, sounds like a youth, like a junior high, you know, church camp. Are you guys want to crave this Thursday? You guys should come by to crave. It's awesome. We're doing a sermon series on Batman.
Oh God.
Crave. It's right after Ignite.
Which, by the way, considering that Brittany and Kenneth are still besties, I think they can still go on their church tour together, where they go and speak at different
churches. Love like kind of semi-famous people that did some famous stuff, and they come in and go, here's how we did it with God.
I see them going on a church tour and being like going and talking to like the young singles couples and being like, hey, and they have like their little spiel, like their song and dance that they do together. I see it now. Okay, now it's gonna get sticky once one of them starts dating somebody. It's gonna get sticky. The church tour is gonna get sticky.
It's gonna get sticky.
But you know, in general, oh yeah, sticky. That's not a fun way to say it.
Weird thing to say.
but in general, I was like, Kenneth, they were like, you're on your phone. What's the deal with like not being
also,
emotional with the breakup?
He was also like, oh yeah, I'm just trying to talk to like my staff because I miss my kids so much. I'm like, it's 10 o'clock at night. You're on your phone. You're not texting staff. Like,
well, here's my thing. You know, I stood by that. I was like, let's not forget that he's a principal. He's 25 and a principal. And that's like
wild.
I know, that's such a like that's a massive fucking job.
Massive.
Like that is so much work, and you have like all the staff and the kids and everything. So when he was on his phone constantly, I'm like, you're gone for that many weeks. Like he's gonna have to catch up for sure. Yeah. But let's be real. Yeah. Some of it was just a scrolling because those late nights.
You weren't just answering emails. You were definitely on Candy Crush.
And at one point too, I remember her saying like, "Well, you were out with your friends late." So like he's texting his friends.
Come on, just be honest, everybody. Everyone's like, well, you know, I wasn't. Interviews always like, you didn't really go out much. It's like, just be honest. I like partying, man. It's fun. I like talking to my friends.
Just be real, you know?
It's hard,
but they seemed, I mean, she, like I said, she feels very protective of their relationship, and they seem like they're just like absolute besties, which is very sweet.
Super sweet.
Very sweet. And then, of course, we had the one couple that made it, which was Johnny and Amy. And
like boring. Boring. You're in love. No one cares.
That is so sad.
But it's the truth. It's like, it's like,
I know it is so sad during these reunions. You're like, I'm like, I love
just, like,
seeing,
fast-forwarding,
I love
like,
seeing
whatever.
love, but I'm also just like, okay, but
you're like, I see how this plays out. Everything's fine.
juice.
I want to see someone rip someone's heart out of their chest.
But they're so
adorable,
stinking cute together.
I feel like the one takeaway that we got is that he hasn't had a lot of sex before her. That was the one takeaway I got.
Yeah. So when they asked when they asked the question about the why could you not use a condom, the way he referenced and he was like, well, I didn't know much about birth control.
I thought birth control is when you remove the balls or something. You know? I literally, the way he talked about it was so cute. He was literally like, so full transparency, I just heard what sex was like a week before the show. So I was learning about this all as you guys were. And with birth control, I was like, controlling birth, what are we talking about? So I hadn't done any research on what a condom even was. They were telling me you got to put this like bag over it. That's obviously I'm not cool with. So what we were working with, it's like, I did love that though. They're like, were you not familiar with condoms? And he's like, yeah, ew, they don't feel good. That's my problem with it.
No, he wasn't like that at all.
I know.
But that was the thing. I think a lot of people were like, oh, is there like a misogynist
confused.
thing going on?
Right.
And from his response, it definitely was not like oh, fuck condoms. They don't feel
like
good.
I don't really know much about this.
He was literally like, well, I didn't really know. And the vibe that for sure I got was like, I bet he's been in like one or two other relationships that were like long term.
Right.
And, you know, they probably were on birth control.
And he just thought that was
as far as
she's
he
on
knew,
birth control and
like,
that's the issue.
He's like, well, I can just, you know, right? And that's just kind of how it is, right?
Yeah.
Definitely, he was not giving me Johnny does not give me one night stand energy.
No.
So I feel like, you know,
his fear of having a kid is so massive, he could never have a one night stand.
No, absolutely not. But also for Johnny, you know, they seem to be doing great. But I'm also like, you know, I know that they're married and doing their thing, but I feel like it wouldn't be bad for Johnny to go to a sex ed seminar. I feel like there's still a lot of stuff that he could learn.
He was like,
you know
and we got back and I started reading up on it. I was like, oh, okay. So I started learning a little bit about like the human anatomy.
We love research, you know, learning all about that sex education. But he just hits me
as very like innocent and sweet. You know what I mean?
think he just didn't have a lot of experience, and he just that's kind of like where it landed. Because also Amy was trying to be very clear too. She's like, let's make something clear. If he was trying to force me to go on birth control, I would have been sitting on the opposite side of that couch in this reunion. So she was a little bit like, that's not how it is, everybody. You know?
So funny.
I'm like, did you see their family Christmas card?
Oh, it's so cute. And she even said her favorite thing about him is he's gentle and kind, and you know, that's definitely not his energy. His energy is like, I don't really understand. Like, do I detach the penis and then put it back on? Is this like a thing I put on the bedside and then put it back on? Is there a way to plug it so that nothing, you know, it's like, he was like, I'm new to this. Oh,
he also
so
gives the type
funny.
of energy that if he would be in a sex ed class and you'd be explaining stuff, he'd be so many questions.
They're like, yes. Yes, Johnny. He's like, so do I remove? They're like, no.
Why do you keep going back to
I don't know.
removing the penis for like what?
Oh, there was something just so funny about that.
But no, you can see the energy in a sex ed class. He's like constantly raising his hand, but also like when he'd learn a new fact, he'd be so excited.
Yeah.
He'd be like, there are how many little swimmy guys in there?
Whoa, they're all like my kids.
Damn.
Yeah. Then he has a new phobia. I can't ever go because then I'm wasting all my children and they're gonna be mad at me. Like, he's got all these like, no, that's not how it works. Oh God, this is too much.
Oh my gosh, it makes my stomach hurt. But they're in love, and they're just absolutely lovely.
Both families in love too, which is
and
like
she was
dream.
looking absolutely like stunning in her Jessica Rabbit attire. I was like, get it, queen.
Crush.
Go off. You know, other than that, I do have to make a quick mention before we wrap. We did get some moments with the OGs. I loved that they brought some couples from the past seasons to sit and ask questions. First and foremost, we got the pleasure, honor, thrill of seeing Giannina and Blake from Bachelor Nation himself.
I always forget she was
together.
on Love Is Blind. I completely forget that. I always kind of like, wait, what show was she on? But I don't remember.
I'm obsessed with them together. They're so stinking cute, and she is pregnant. They were talking about like, what the baby's name was going to be. I loved seeing Blake there. Yeah. I thought it was so funny. They're not going to say Bachelor Nation. So they were just like, and here's Blake. And it's like, everyone knows.
From a franchise. Her partner, Blake, who's a man who also did stuff media-wise. Like they wouldn't.
Yeah, you can't say it. You can't say it because they dare not mention on the Love is Blind stage Bachelor Nation. But I loved seeing them. Yeah. They're just absolutely so cute. And congratulations to them with the little one on the way. And then also we got Kwame and Chelsea.
Yeah, haven't changed a bit. Haven't changed one bit. She's like speaking for him. He's like, yeah, so for me. And she's like, and you will go. Like, you know what I mean? It's like when you're in a play and then you're saying the person's lines as they're saying them. Like she was like, remember our script? I love Chelsea.
Those two, I will never not be baffled. I will never not be baffled. And we find out though that all of a sudden they're traveling because she has a new work venture. She is officially a casting producer,
casting director,
or something, working on casting
for Love is Blind.
For Love is Blind. And I looked at Evan and I go, my God, this woman gets anything she wants.
She goes after it.
She gets anything she wants. We all said, there's no way that her and Kwame are going to get married. There's no way. And she's like, Kwame, you will marry me. You will marry me. And here they are, years later, married together.
Kwame, I know you wanted to travel the world as a nomad. So instead, we're going to go to Washington, D.C., where your family lives. And that'll be like a traveling, right? Like he's like, yeah. She's like, oh, we've been traveling nonstop. It's been amazing. And they're like, Kwame, where you been? He's like, it's not so much where we've been. It's just more like we've been traveling in our minds. Like we did our honeymoon, which was a travel. And then since then, we've been to Washington, D.C. twice. So when she says traveling all over the world, maybe more like online. I mean, like he definitely was like, I don't know what the hell she's talking about with this traveling shit, but we have definitely not been traveling.
So she then gets there and then she gets Love is Blind to give her a job.
Crazy.
I mean, she was like, I'm not satisfied with my job because I want the opportunity to maybe travel if we want to. Oh, and she then got a job.
And it was such
Love is Blind.
And she was so PR about it too. She goes, I love my job. I'm able to work with strong, independent singles that are searching for love one day at a time. And I get to facilitate that. Like, what are you selling the show? It was hilarious.
Oh, no, she launched into
campaign. A full-blown campaign.
There we go. Another politician
Big
energy,
time.
Except, definitely.
Not without all the horrible stuff.
Not the Jeramey, Sarah, and politician
vibes. It made me laugh.
vibes.
How she's, I get to work with young, independent singles. We're like, well, no, you don't have to keep your job here. Everything's fine. Like, you have the job. But she definitely was like letting everyone know.
We're all watching the episode right now. You're not going to convince us to watch season 7 if you pitch it hard enough. Like we're very, very good.
And very corporate.
I would just pay so much money to be in one of the interviews where she's doing casting.
Oh,
like one of the people auditioning for Love is Blind, typically you're sitting across from like a casting producer and you don't necessarily recognize them because they haven't been on the show. Sure. But now all of a sudden you're sitting across from Chelsea, you go in and Chelsea's doing a lot of like, well, when I was on the show.
when I was on the show.
When me and the love of my life, Kwame.
It's funny you mentioned that. I personally, when I was in the pods, like, oh, here we go. It's gonna be a lot of that. The other producers are like,
all of a sudden, but you know what?
I bring a new angle. I've been on the show.
But you know what? She gets whatever she wants. At some point soon, she'll get Nick and Vanessa's job. She'll get her and Kwame, Nick and Vanessa's job. She will make her way to the top.
She'll be podcasting in these chairs.
Yeah, she'll get whatever she wants.
We're like, how did this happen? Like, would you like coffee? Oh, here you go.
She'll get whatever she wants, truly. And then the other announcement that we got was Micah was there, Izzy was there. And a side note, I was loving watching the OGs reacting to like Trevor, Jeramey. It was absolutely killing me because they're like, oh, I thought my scandal was bad. And it is nothing compared to what these guys were up to.
They were living for like watching someone else's fall and knowing that like I'm good now.
Yeah, Izzy was just like, my credit's good now, and the crowd
That was a great
roared.
line. He goes, I want to declare something. My credit's good.
And
like
everyone
that.
cheered.
That was funny. That was really funny.
That was good. And we find out that Micah and Jess, I guess, are best friends, which
I was not ready for that.
Means that like Micah's terrible friend is out there somewhere so angry.
True.
Remember her?
You've been ditched.
She's been ditched for Jessica. Oosh, oosh. But we find out that Micah and Izzy and Jessica are going to be on the upcoming season of Perfect Match, which I'm very excited about. And yeah, I think overall, was that it? Was that everyone?
I think so.
I think we did it.
I
know we jumped all over the place, everyone, so sorry if we're missing a huge part, but
Yeah, I don't think.
I'm
looking through everyone's faces on the couch. I'm like, did we hit everybody? Yeah, I think we did it. It was great.
It was a great
set
reunion.
Was incredible, so beautiful.
They
got some Netflix money on there because it is balling.
Oh, they're starting to flex that cash for this season.
And they had even just the whole like skit they had where they're like checking in every room and like all the couples there doing different funny things, almost like a late night television show. Then they have the like reveal and they come in like it was very well done.
And I'm sure doing it on the same set where the actual pods are provides a certain sort of energy.
Oh, so then even the crowd that shows up, you're right there. It's like they did an incredible job.
Yeah. I wonder too, if I didn't see this online, but maybe the people that they invited to be in the studio audience, if they got to then be taking photos in the pods, and then that's good publicity, whatever.
Either way, they did it. They did a great job. It was a plus.
Shout out Nick and Vanessa. Y'all did it. You know what I mean?
Everyone did a really good job.
And everybody, you know what? Thank you for this season 6. I'm actually like devoted it's over. I enjoyed it so much.
I really wish it was kind of one episode at a time because I kind of wish this was like a couple months long. It was fast and exciting.
But guess what? You know what we have on Wednesday? Well, technically,
in 2 days.
It's happening tonight if you're listening to this Monday morning. But we will be recapping on Wednesday the Women Tell All for Joey's season.
The moment we've been waiting for.
So I can't wait for that. So everyone, thank you. Let's cheers our Love is Blind glasses.
Cheers.
We must cheers.
Love you all.
We love you all. Thank you for going on this LIB journey with us. We had so much fun.
We have some fun things coming up.
We got fun things coming up. Prepare yourself and tune in on Wednesday for the Women Tell All recap. And yeah.
Love you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Love you. Love is blind.